JayzTwoCents here. Red Mist is done. In fact, I am so happy it's done, I even got dressed up for the occasion and I put on a nice shirt. But I am still wearing gym shorts, but that doesn't matter because you can't see that anyway. But I figured what better way to end the series than with a Q&A session from you guys. I asked you on Twitter if you had any questions about why we did something or why I didn't do something, then ask it away because I figured it'd be good to talk about it. Why we did the build the way we did, and why the hell did it take 4 months? Today's video is brought to you by MassDrop, and right now they have a drop going for the White Fox keyboard. If you're a typing enthusiast, then the White Fox keyboard is definitely meant for you. This 65% keyboard is fully customizable, including switches, keycaps, layout, and with its CNC anodized aluminum case is sure to give you years of typing enjoyment. To learn more about the White Fox keyboard, head to MassDrop using the link in the description below. So before we get on with the Q&A, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of eye candy. You guys like watching the loops get filled. I like filming it. So let's go ahead and check out the eye porn, or PC porn, or whatever you want to call it, right now. I think one of the most common questions I get asked is why in the hell is this taking so long? Even though this is a client build, I've actually become friends with the client now, known him for several years. You guys remember back in 2014, I did the first version of this with the Asus Maximus. It was a Z87 with a 4770K and two 780 Ti's. And since then, he decided he wanted to upgrade the system. and he didn't know what parts he wanted to go with, so he tore the system apart himself. He took it all apart before he brought it to me. He literally brought me a case, and that was pretty much it. He brought me a case and the radiators he had already purchased. So all the parts that it took to build this thing came in along the way. So it wasn't like the parts were dropped off as a mountain of boxes and said, here you go, build it. I mean, he couldn't decide on which motherboard he wanted to go. Finally, we chose on the X99 classified from EVGA. He was pretty sure he wanted to do 980 Ti's. He wouldn't bought those. And then, as you guys know, as time went on, the 1080s came out and he wanted those. And that was really unfortunate because NVIDIA didn't really give us any headway into the GTX 1080 timeframe launch. And I blame myself a little bit here because typically we saw Titans launch in the spring and the 80 series cards launch more or less end of summer, early fall. And I thought that they were going to stick to that cycle. So he even asked me, do you think a new graphics card's going to come out? And I said, well, if they do, it'll more than likely be a Titan, so let's just move forward. Egg on my face, yeah, it turned out to be the 1080s. So he took a loss by selling the 3980 Ti's, which were never used with the water blocks. Actually, some of you guys on Twitter bought those. I put them up for sale for him, and we moved on to the 1080s. Which kind of leads us into the next kind of funny haha joke was the fact that we got the 1080s, we got the blocks on, I got them installed, and then NVIDIA with absolutely no notice says, hey guys, by the way, GTX Titan X, or as everyone else is calling it, Titan XP. Because, yeah. So anyway, of course, everyone on Twitter was like, now when is Red Mist gonna, how much long Red Mist gonna take now? Are you gonna do 2 Titan X's in there? And when I talked to him, I said, if you tell me you want to do Titan X's, I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna install 2 speak and spells, I'm gonna do it with duct tape, and I'm gonna send it home. I'm gonna be done. I will just be done with this build. But no, when we saw the $1,200 price tag, even if they were $1,000 like the other Titans have been, the answer is no. He's not interested in spending that kind of cash. I mean, the 2 1080s that are in here cost the same amount as one, well, just over one of those Titan X's. It's a terrible cost to performance ratio, so he's fine with that. But he did stick with the 5960X, although the 6950X is out. $1,700 for that CPU. Yeah, again, price to performance on that is way out of proportion and wasn't even an option. So we're happy with where we did this, where we stuck with this. And there's a lot of little custom things on here, like the white. This is a EVGA HB high bandwidth bridge on there, but I took the decals off. I painted it white, put the decals back on, wanted it to match, has the red logo showing. Lots of little things in this build that took a lot of time. As you guys know from the last series, or the last video, we had to ditch the glass. We were having problems with the fittings, and we decided to do bends, which I'm happy with. The bends look really, really good in there. Also, too, if you guys want to know a list of the main components in the system, look down in the description. There will be a link to PC Part Picker. It's not going to have every single piece, guys. There are so many little things in here, and fittings, and brackets, and just adapters and extensions. Like the cables are custom made. I can't even put those in PC Part Picker. You know, those were sponsored by Joe over at Modders Inc. He built he did all the sleeving. He's done all the sleeving for me in the past, so that didn't really have a cost, so it's not in there. But if I had to guess how much the system cost, this is probably sitting right around $6,500 on the tower itself. So yeah, anyway, if you guys want to know the parts, look in the description. Those will be down there. Which is kind of funny. First question here by Sean Simmons on Twitter. How much do you think it costs? Like I said, probably about $6,500 if I had to make a guess. Cajun Terror on Twitter says, has he thought about moving to a different case, maybe tempered glass? Funny story. He was the first one to get the SM-A8. The first one I got to see in person. It was his build back in 2014, and because of Red Mist was why I ended up with one, because I fell in love with the case. The size, the amount of room in there for doing custom water cooling. But again, it's an acrylic side panel on there. But he is going to be getting, both of us actually, himself and myself, when I do my build, are going to be getting custom-made tempered glass side panels for our cases. But we will be sticking with the SM-A8 from Case Labs. Mike the Maniac Geek says, if this was your build, what, if anything, would you have done differently? Color, case, hardware, etc. That's kind of a trick question, Mike, because you know this case and this build inspired Skunkworks. So Skunkworks was pretty much what I would have done the first time around to this. And this has inspired some things I want to do with Skunkworks moving forward, but they're going to be very subtle and things you might not even notice on camera. Just little things about the way some of the fittings work, or some of the way some of the adapters are, or try and streamline this, you know, little things like that. But overall, Skunkworks is going to look pretty much the same, minus 3 Titan X's, and I'll be putting in 2 1080 classifieds, actually, a little teaser there. You guys have seen me put the blocks on the Founders Edition cards. Spoiler alert, I'm putting two 1080 classifieds in there, and I'm not doing tight nexus for my build either. Even if NVIDIA sends them over, which I don't think that they will, I'm not going to put them in Skunkworks. I'm kind of done with that level of hardware personally. McDonald's fries. Wow, McDonald's is tweeting me. He says, just curious, why did you use mainly Bits Power fittings? Did Red Mist owner request them, or do you just like them? Bits Power fittings, in my opinion, are of the highest quality. The O-rings fit the tightest. The swivels don't just freely move. You've really got to torque on them to get them to move. They just have the best track record when it comes to not leaking. And obviously when it comes to water cooling, leaks are something you want to keep in check, obviously. Rory on Twitter asks, why a white case when most parts are red and black? Right now on camera, you cannot see what we see in person. The camera does not pick up the lighting and do it justice whatsoever. But the white case with red and black accents looks freaking amazing, and it was part of the inspiration for calling it Red Mist. The owner came up with the name, the owner came up with the theme. I just went with his request when it came to the build theme. But the white case with the red accents and the blacks looks freaking amazing in person. Like right now, what you guys see, like the motherboard looks all dark, like it's shadowy, but in person, it doesn't look that way whatsoever. So unfortunately, it's just the way the camera picks it up. Yeah. Manti La on Twitter says, what's the difficulty level for this project from a scale of 1 to 10? I would say for me, it was about a 7, maybe a 6. There's nothing custom here. There was drilling and stuff obviously in the case, especially with the return line. As you guys can see, I moved that from being a soft tubing going to the back of the case now to a return line here right above the reservoirs, which still goes soft tubing down to the pump. But little things like that, that's not hard. That's just a drill bit with a unibit on there and making sure you get everything measured. There's nothing super custom about this build at all in terms of like case modding. Obviously it's a custom build, but difficulty level, just take your time and plan, and everything can seem easy from that point. Apollo says, would you build your personal PC like Red Mist? Yeah, have you seen Skunkworks? Skunkworks, again, I see a lot of comments saying things like, Red Mist looks too much like Skunkworks. No, Skunkworks looks too much like Red Mist. Red Mist was first, and Red Mist was the inspiration for my build. And remember, Red Mist had inspiration from Snef, also on the overclock.net forums, who does phenomenal builds. And he did a very similar white and red build to Red Mist. So yeah, there are inspirations for all over the internet for these builds. It's not just like I came up with this. I've looked at other people's builds and gotten inspiration as well. So obviously all of these systems are kind of related in some way. Mash on Twitter says, is there any particular reason you've never used the Photon D5 pump res combo? I like the seamless tube style over the square. I've seen it and it's a very, very slick combo. It looks amazing. The problem is this is a very square case. The square, it has no real angles. There's nothing rounded about it. So the square bottoms, like in my system, look really, really good. Unfortunately, the pumps for him here are down in the basement. And the way that this system was already built, the way that this standoff that I've made here for the reservoirs to kind of look like they're floating, are not long enough to allow me to put the pump up top like I did with Skunkworks and still have clearance for the radiator on the top. Remember, we went with a little bit thicker radiator up top. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't do it with this here. But yeah, it is a very sleek looking pump res combo, and I highly recommend it for anyone wanting a D5 and a cylinder res. Jonathan on Twitter says, is there any particular reason that the owner needs the best parts, or is he an enthusiast like yourself? I kind of already said this. He is an enthusiast, obviously. Only an enthusiast would want a PC like this. But this is not the highest end parts you can get. I just told you there are tight nexus that are coming out, and inevitably 1080 Ti's probably in the future. Don't know how far in the future, but he's happy with the performance level he's going to get out of this. Remember, I've already benchmarked two 1080s versus my 3 tight nexuses in Skunkworks. There is a video on that, and these two 1080s come like right underneath the tight nex. So the performance to dollar ratio was really good there. There's also higher end CPUs, 10 cores, 20 threads, $1,700. So it didn't make sense. But you can't make a statement saying that they're the best parts available when they're not, clearly. Callum Barton says, why didn't you go with a smaller case? Really, it came down to just being able to fit everything in there comfortably. We could have gone with a smaller case, and it would have been very, very doable. But with a case this big and this much air volume in there and this much front intake fan, the temperatures in this stay ridiculously low, very close to ambient, because the envelope in which the air is moving through there is just so big. It's also one of those things where he has a desk very similar to mine, a giant IKEA Galant system with a corner unit and extensions, and he's got the room for it, so why not? But that's the cool thing about PC building, is there is stuff out there to fit every single flavor. Big cases, medium cases, small cases. Get what you like, you know. Just because you like a small case doesn't mean he does, and vice versa. It doesn't mean either one of you are wrong either. TM on Twitter says, Jay, I think Red Mist would look much better and cleaner if you moved the long horizontal tube graphic to pump. He's talking about this one right here, and it's actually graphics card to reservoir, not pump, to the bottom compartment. One of the earlier versions of Skunkworks had that, where I actually had it come straight down and go through the floor over to the side. The problem was, with how big the case is, it looked way too empty. There wasn't nearly enough tubing in there to make it just look full, if you will. So that's one of the reasons why I did that, because I just wanted to fill up that space. But yeah, I did try it that way, but I personally felt that it was too clean, if that makes sense. I want to show off some of the water cooling loop, not hide it. And then the last question here, Lovaz Batond, I know I'm mutilating your name, I'm sorry. He says, are you satisfied with the build? I am satisfied, actually. I think it turned out near perfect. Nothing's perfect. Some of the bends aren't 100% perfect, but then again, when you're dealing with heat and bending plastic and trying to make it all line up and eyeballing it like I do, I'm never 100% satisfied with any build I ever do. But the more important question is the owner satisfied with it? And I already showed him pictures, and he is beside himself and can't wait to come pick it up. In fact, he's coming this afternoon to get it, and that's why I got to end this video now, because I got to get the operating system installed, to get the drivers installed and updated for him so he can take it, start installing his games, and be done. He's been waiting, guys, a long time. And I've been waiting to do my build so that I wasn't rushing his to do mine, so things had to happen in the order which they happened. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. If you would change something, what would it be? Remember, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to custom builds like this. Everyone's systems is a reflection of their personalities and what they would personally do. So although you may say you don't like something on here, it doesn't mean that we did it wrong, and it doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong, and vice versa. That's the best part about custom PC building. Do it how you want. Actually, hold that thought. You might notice I changed my clothes too. I was actually wrapping up this video and went up and changed out of that hot shirt, and I realized I forgot to mention why we're using airflow fans down here, although I have to go through this every single time I do a video. When this PC was first built back in 2014, there were no static pressure 140mm fans by Corsair, and we specifically went with the Corsair fans because of the accent rings. Because we are running a 140mm radiator, and it is a fairly efficient and high flow radiator when it comes to fans, we're able to use the high flow, or airflow fans rather, without any issues whatsoever. It's never been an issue in Skunkworks. It's also never been an issue inside of Red Mist. Yeah, obviously there are better fans out today suited for 140mm radiators, but again, we wanted to stick with the accent color. So that's really, it comes down to aesthetics over function, at least when it comes to the 140mm fans. But up top, we are using the static pressure, and we are using airflows for the actual case fans right here on the front and the back of the case. So I just wanted to address that real quick, because I know on Twitter I said I would, did the video, and forgot to mention it. Anyway, that's why I've gone through a wardrobe change and stuff. But anyway, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.